Hi, welcome to my channel, Scrappy Lolly Paper Company. I have been working on the funnest project. I have been watching, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'll put it on the screen, Merveilles in Papier. I have no idea, I'm sure I butchered that. But anyway, she's a paper magician and she makes everything beautiful out of paper mache. And so I was watching her make this stocking and this candy cane, and I had to try it just to see if I could do it. So I'm nowhere near that caliber of good. This was my first time to do this, and I think it came out amazing, and it was so much fun to do. So I just started out using just a plain stocking here. I used packing paper like you get at any store or you order on Amazon. We have tons of it around because my son has a McCurry shop. But I made the basic shape, stuffed some paper inside of it, and I left it sit for a couple of weeks. The holidays came, life happens, that kind of thing. And so today was the day I was ready to finish it. Now it is pretty large. I don't know if it looks that way in the camera or not, but I'm gonna say it's a good 18 inches high. I didn't measure it, but it's a pretty good project. So what I've done here is I painted some tissue paper. Instead of making the stocking and then painting the stocking, she paints all of her paper. Beautiful designs, all of it, but I painted my tissue paper green and I painted some red sheets. So my stocking here, I'm just adding the tissue paper on here just to add a little folds here and there, not to look like the typical red and white stocking that we see hanging. I wanted it to have layers. Watching her video, hers did too, so I wanted to try that to see if I could do it. All of this is to see if I could do it, and amazed myself, and it was just a wonderful project to do. I just loved it. Of course, I love paper, and not just in junk journals and things like that, but paper in general and the things that you can do with it. And I love that she is what she calls a paper magician, and she definitely is. I'm not a magician, but I think it all came out pretty good. So the little curvy toe had some trouble with because I had to patch it, and when I did that, kind of made it weak there at the bend. And so you'll see at the end I add a little wire to that. Other than that, everything is paper. I made a little hanger to hang the stocking. It's paper. So in this part, again, we're just the paper came out soft even though it was an acrylic paint, and I'm using Mod Podge. Now I did use a wood glue when I made the stocking, and in the videos that she shares, she also uses wood glue. But here I'm using Mod Podge, hoping that it's just tissue paper and that maybe it would be strong enough to hold it all together. So, but again, the paper is soft and really easy to work with. The only thing that is difficult is the Mod Podge that gets all over your fingers and everything's sticky, but that was just fun in all of that. So I didn't finish the back yet. It was just a little bit wet by the time I finished everything, so it was a little soft, so I thought I would just give it some time to rest. And then I think I need to paint another green sheet so I can finish the back. So now I'm stuffing it here with just regular tissue paper that you wrap a gift with, just to try to give it some shape, because when it dries, it'll dry in that shape rather than flat. So the interesting thing here that I learned was, you know, normally when you want to patch something, you grab tape, or if you want something strengthened, you grab some wire. And I did put wire in the toe in the end. But here, instead of making a flat stocking, I learned how to add that depth just using paper and not really a hinge, but a spine, maybe you might call it. And then just layering the paper. So in different parts, depending on what I needed to do, I needed to make more of a heel shape, and I did that using the paper instead of cutting and taping and all of that. I just pulled the paper a little bit tighter and then glued it down. So it may sound like an easy thing, but when it's not what you do in your normal practice, it was interesting to construct just using paper, using the tissue paper inside to help give it shape, and then just tugging on the paper and gluing it down here and there to kind of emphasize the heel in around the front part. I did that a couple of times. Now, when I first made that toe little curly cue, it didn't look like that, but again, I had to do some work on it, and that's how it ended up, but I think it still turned out cute. I did shape a candy cane with the same packing paper as I did the stocking, and they've both been sitting around for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I think. And so here I painted some tissue paper red, and I've just torn it into strips, and I'm just wrapping the candy cane. Very rustic shapes, but I think in the end they both just came out so beautiful, and I'm really proud of myself for this one. It was just something new, and it was really fun, so I cannot wait to try the next thing. It's a different type of paper mache that I normally watch people do. There's no wire, there's no clay, there's none of that. I have one piece of wire in the toe, and that was just because I'm sure it was a rookie mistake on what I did there with that little curl. But in her videos, there's wire on her bow, I think, to hang it on her tree or ribbon or something like that. But in the construction part, it was all just paper. So here I'm painting just regular tissue paper that you get anywhere to wrap a gift. I thought the paper would come out crunchy and hard to work with, but on the contrary, it came out very soft, very easy to work with. So here we're going to start working on the bow, and I want my bow to be red with white stripes. All right, so this square I'll eventually fold into my bow. So now I want to make the tails for my bow, which is the two little ribbons that hang down. So here I'm painting a long strip of paper, and I'll also put the stripes to match the bow. And then I folded and kind of crinkled up the paper, folded it in half, and then I'm just trying to shape it because it's covered in Mod Podge, and so it's going to stay in the shape basically that I put it in. I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and now we're going to make the cuff of the stocking, which I'm going to do in red. So I folded it over the top and used the Mod Podge to stick it, and then I didn't want it to just be a straight piece of paper, so kind of wrinkling it up a little bit to make it look like fabric. And at this point, it started to look like a stocking, and I started to feel like I was going to do okay with this project. All right, so now we're ready to put the bow on. I didn't wait for the bow to dry completely, so I have a little bit of paint smudged here and there, but I was just so excited to get started on this. So I'm just doing just like you would do a ribbon bow. I'm gathering it all in the middle, and then I am going to use wire to put the bow to the tails, just because I'm using Mod Podge and it wouldn't dry or stick fast enough um, without me having to stand there for a while. So lots of things that I learned doing this. Here I tore it, so I'm just doing a little patchwork on the back so that I can refold it again. So the different things that I learned now, I'll be able to do better next time, and maybe I won't tear it and I'll wait for it to dry, but I won't have to use the wire where I did, things like that. It can just be all paper. But my first time, and it's learning, and so I'm not going to beat myself up about it. So I'm just trying to figure out the bow. One direction was too long, so I'm trying to just decide on how I want to fold it so that it doesn't cover the entire stocking, but I do want that big full look to it. So I don't know how that picture got in there, but editing is hard. So putting on the bow here, and now we're going to do the final reveal, and I want to thank you for joining me. I hope that you were inspired maybe to try it as well. I will link our videos below, and so you can watch them as well. But didn't it turn out gorgeous?